Hey, welcome back to another COGS Musings. I'm Dr. Mike Martin. This is Dr. Terrence McCullough and Dr. Brad Robinson, and we do this every other week. It's our way to give back to our profession. It's You got three doctors here that were high volume, managed to have kids, stay married, collect a lot of money, and rewire, so to speak. So we want to give our information back to you if you haven't been with us before. We're not coaches. You could call us mentors, I guess, but we're here to give away information that sometimes you would pay dollars, tens of thousands of dollars a year for. So we have a topic every other week, and today's topic is pretty broad. We asked ourselves, what is the biggest lie in chiropractic? Uh, that's a pretty wide open subject, and we all have various um, ideas. So, Terrence, this was your thought. So, why don't you start us off? Morning, everybody.
Good morning. Yeah.
Morning.
Well, again, prompted by this by, multiple things. Probably the biggest thing currently, which we'll come back to, I know, is the schools and the cost of the chiropractic education, the lack of follow-up with the docs after they do graduate, those sorts of things. But one of the things that prompted it, in addition to that, was I'll just use consultants and coaches and mentors in the profession who like to talk about how much money you're going to make as a chiropractor and put out some of the pie in the sky numbers. Um, and most of them, in my experience, have made and they like to talk about it as FU money uh, by their coaching and mentoring, not by practice.
Right.
And I defer back to one of my coaches and mentors, Greg Stanley, back in the day, who was a financial guy, not a chiropractor, but said, as a chiropractor, you're going to make enough money to rent anything that you want.
Hmm.
But then you're going to have to go back to work. So you could rent a beautiful vacation home, you could rent a yacht, you could rent almost anything you want. But 2 weeks at the most, and then you're going to have to go back to work for probably 52 weeks so you can go do it again. And I think it's unfair for the profession, and the schools are involved in this too, but the consultants have become very um, complicit in that and saying, oh, you're going to easily make this much money and in turn, and not have to work hard to do it. Sort of that low volume, high fee, um, or leading with money first, like we talked about last time a little bit, leading with money first versus care and service. And some of the things that we're familiar with, that volumes become an ugly word, and those sorts of things. And then within that too, then, what I said in my text to you guys, just put your shingle out and people are just going to show up, or just run a Facebook ad and you're going to get, 30 new patients a month and blah, blah, blah. And all, and implying that they're going to, retire at 40 and, all these sorts of things. I just think it's uh, consultants feeding on the kid. And, what I found is the consultants have consultants, right? All
They
these,
do.
uh, and it's kind of like the failure back in medicine and hospitals back in the what 70s and 80s, when the docs got removed as being in charge of the hospitals and they put MBAs and those business people in charge. So it became, again, lead with money,
Right.
not leading with care. I mean, the medical people did care. They did want to take care of people and they wanted it to be affordable. But as soon as they lost control of the hospitals, and then it became a business model. Then it became, I always say, don't think they're not in the background going, we haven't done enough knee surgeries this month.
Right.
Get in there and do that. So same thing happening in our profession, that the consultants, who are now considered the leaders in our profession, which is scary to me, uh, are leading from the side of make more money, not care for more people. And and also again pie in the sky numbers. Yeah, you guys know people better than me. Some of the other consultants, I think most of the consultants made more money on their in their consulting than they ever made in their practice. Uh,
Most.
That's it. Yeah, that's interesting. You say that because I've said this before that I'm a street credibility guy. I only went with coaches and consultants that actually, did what they said they did. Um, because I learned by watching and copying. So unless you were able to do it and show it to me, I probably wasn't going to learn from you, you know? Um, so let me think if I can maybe, this is what I was hearing you say, Terrence. Tell me if I'm wrong, or maybe it's another direction to go. The big lie is that case fee means more than volume. And when I say volume, I mean service to more people.
yes.
I find that to be not true. Anybody that I know that has a really high case fee sees very few people, and it seems to me that they're always struggling for money. Whereas anybody that I know that um, services first and they're interested in their number of patients at the end of the week, but and then you pay attention to what you're getting paid because you have to do that, right? You have to be
Right.
physical. Um, they're the guys that are buying the vacation homes and not renting them for 2 weeks out of the year. That's what I see. You guys seeing the same thing?
Well,
Absolutely.
but they're also fiscally responsible,
That's
right?
what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. You got to be physically responsible. I mean, I don't care what you do. If you're a realtor, I mean, you could be the best realtor in the world, but if you're spending every penny, you know, you'll not have that nest egg or that big lump sum, or like we were taught to do is invest the money, right? But I don't want to get off the subject. I think that the biggest lie, and it's the consultants that are driving this, is that large case fees and low patient visit numbers is the way to go. And I think that's a huge lie.
Well, and then with that, they're adamant about and don't work hard,
Yeah.
right? That's the other
Well,
that's the other aspect of it is that
you,
um,
you want to get to a bottom line truth, period. And anything you do, um, is you got to work really, really hard,
right.
right? That doesn't mean you work 100 hours. It just means if you work 38 or 40, you work really hard in those 40 hours, you know?
Yeah, but as we've talked in the other part of that, like, and you said it about your associates, Mike, that then what are they doing when they get home?
Right.
Are you what books are you reading? What
Yeah.
audio are you listening to? Are you reviewing your script? Because it's kind of like uh, any sport, you can't have practice during the game. So
No. Yeah.
I know during a shift you can have maybe little micro meetings, or you can maybe you have whatever happen, whether it's with staff or a patient. You might make a quick note, so you can stick it in your pocket and go. We got to review this later or tomorrow, but that's you have it's what you do outside as well, and building that I always call it infrastructure, that you're all those hours of time and reading and practice and study so that you make it look easy
Yeah.
when you're in the flow. And as I have said with my sons in the practice, that when they went and did the one, report a finding seminar, and they followed the script, but would come out and go up, and throw the file, patient walks out, the file goes in the bin. Nope, no close. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but my point being, but that built their infrastructure. If they, I would at least be like, well, wait a minute. What did you say? Did you think about what you said, right? So that you can do better the next time, right? Those sorts of things. But also in Terrence's case, could arguably took, I don't know, 6, 7 years of doing that to get to where it's, I don't know, more positive or more fruitful for him at this point. And same for us, right? That how many that we practiced our all of our stuff, not just in the when we were doing it, but then you go and review it and go over it, so it
Mhm.
40 hours turns into 60,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
You're
when
talking
the
about practice hours, yeah, but yeah,
practice hours
yeah.
versus work.
Interesting. I differentiate practice hours and hours out of the office because if I'm prepping and doing other stuff, reading whatever, then I'm at home with family around me. So, I never really considered that work hours, but it is, right? It was just part of family life.
Correct.
What's dad doing? He's getting ready for Monday. But I could
Exactly.
still talk to the kids or I could help, do something. But yeah, yeah. I never looked at it that way, but they're still working hours. I guess that's what I would consider hard work, right? It's that work that you're doing that's not part of your regular working hours. I don't know. Semantics, right?
When did how my dad would go into the office every Sunday and
Yeah.
he was a Gonstead guy to mark the x-rays,
Mhm.
but he was there. Yeah, he marked the x-rays, he checked the files, he made sure the office was clean. He walked around.
Always.
We used to say, his one of his mentors, Dr. Hendricks, would say, go in and stir the chemicals
Yeah.
in the, bang on the walls, right, to get the electrons going. Say new patients out loud,
Yeah.
say, but that was, sometimes that's what's happening on Sunday. And I learned that I would go down and my dad had a VCR in the office because we used the Renaissance tapes for
Pre-taped, yeah.
day one and day two. But that's where I watched all the Greg Stanley capacity tapes. I would
Uh-huh.
go down to the office on Sunday or Saturday and just sit there and watch a couple hours
Hmm.
and try to just mimic my father, what something. I wasn't marking the x-rays because he did that, or I would practice that so I could understand what he was doing. But it still was the base of who we are. And it was crap. My dad, he had, we had so many hours, Mike, I don't remember, but uh,
Yeah.
but going there Saturday and Sunday, I still was able to go out and have fun and,
Yeah.
dated my wife and
Yeah.
saw friends and whatever it might be and played tennis, whatever it
Well,
might be. So, just didn't
yeah.
think anything of putting in 60 hours and then, right, listening to a tape, right, whatever it might be.
If I didn't get in there on Sunday, I was always there, and I know Brad did the same thing. I opened at 8. I was in there sometimes quarter to 6,
Sure.
6 o'clock. Sitting on the tables, looking over paperwork, just doing what you did on Sunday. But if it didn't happen Sunday, for me, it typically was Monday, really, really early.
Right.
So just functioned better that way.
But
Brad,
again, the same thing working, it,
you're
the
quiet,
also
Brad.
that FU money, the thing. So
Well, I'm letting you guys roll because I'm just listening because you're spot on. The first thing that comes to mind is the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary.
You and your sayings, man. If I'd have written them down the last 40 years, I'd have a book.
It's so true. And I think that's indicative of the younger generations. They're so into the work-life balance that they want to have life more than they want to work. And as a chiropractor, we were out to change the world. We were out to get everybody under chiropractic care because we knew that it would be a better society for that. And it was never about the high case average visit or case average fee. It was about seeing people on a regular basis from pre-birth to death, and getting people to understand that is a challenge because that's just completely opposite of what the the uh, um, the public gets every day. If in every all the commercials, all the TV ads, all the billboards, hey, listen, if you don't feel good, take this and you'll feel better. Well, we know that that's a lie. and that's being perpetuated in somewhat by the schools because they become more treatment oriented. That educated is more important than innate. And if we can recapture those days of the young bucks out there trying to change the world rather than just make enough money so I can vacation in Italy, uh, is is huge. And we have to figure out a way to do that, or else we're going to lose the profession.
Yeah, I
I
wonder if
agree.
these, yeah, I wonder if these, these, yeah, I don't know. It's just too many moving parts sometimes for me, but I wonder if what adds to that is these kids are coming out $300,000 in debt, right? And they
Yeah.
immediately got to get that case average so they can pay that loan. That's an issue. I don't know why, but uh, again, too many moving parts for me. But yeah,
Well, I mean that, again, the schools, the concern is that they're again running as a business,
yes,
not as a healing institution, and thus they're again complicit with the consultants. In my mind,
yeah,
they're feeding each other of,
yeah.
um,
So
yeah. And I know Sherman is somewhat outside the box
they are
of it, but I don't know if that their education is that much less expensive than everybody else's.
a little bit less expensive
Yeah, I
than
mean,
everybody
so
else. Yeah,
even if it was 10% less, now
yeah,
you're talking about 270 versus
yeah.
300,000, or
Yeah.
or
It,
180 and not 200, whatever it might be.
yeah.
It's still too high.
Their their tuition is less, and certainly their cost of living in that area is less, so that does
Right.
help. But I was talking to Dr. Jason last night, and I asked him what he thought the biggest lie was, and he said that he thinks the biggest lie right now is the schools even care about protecting chiropractic, protecting its uniqueness and uh, its um, distinct separateness because of our philosophy and what we do. He said that's the biggest lie right now is that they call themselves chiropractic colleges, yet they're not teaching these kids that they're unique, that they have a unique solution to a unique problem. They're not teaching them the principle, let alone X-ray and subluxation. And they're not separate and distinct when they come out, and they have $300,000 in debt, and they want to play doctor, right?
Yeah.
And they're not equipped to do that. That's a massive lie that's laid at these kids' feet, because a
I
lot
agree.
of them go into chiropractic school not even having they go because they think it's a good profession, but I think a good majority of them go because they want to be different. They don't want to be a medical doctor, and yet they get kind of funneled into that lane, that allopathic lane. And I think that's a massive lie, and that's what's hurting us at this point because then they come out and they don't know any other way but to uh, they're not going to do anything that doesn't have a code that doesn't get them rewarded for that code, you know?
Right. Well, nor are they then teaching that
Oh, right.
the adjustment is our primary
Yeah, yeah.
tool to help reconnect, right?
Hmm.
Man,
Yeah.
the man, the physical with man, the spiritual body and brain,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those aspects, and at
Yeah.
least touching on those things, but that these are the best tools we have. They now have become same thing to the
Yeah.
advertisers or the sponsors, whether it be from Foot Levelers, who's been there forever, to Erconia, to Soft Wave, or whatever,
Right. Right.
whatever it might be. And frustratingly, like you just said, that they pushed X-ray to less important,
Publication.
or
Yeah.
that you know that structure and function that's so intimate to what we do is now not important.
So I
And
went, I went to the dentist, the new dentist yesterday, and he took a full set of films. I'm looking at them with the dentist. I'm thinking, what a great tool, right? he's showing me everything that's good about my teeth and the one bad thing, right? If I wouldn't have had those x-rays, I have my teeth are there's no pain, they look great. All these they're kind of healthy. And without that tool, I wouldn't have seen the thing that not potentially, will be a problem down the road, right? They're not taking that away from the dentist, are they?
No,
It's such a
no,
great tool for us. And we're not talking about teeth. We're talking about what you said, uniting man's spirit with the physical atom, right? It's
right.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just not even touching on it. They're
No.
just,
Well,
uh,
Sherman is. I can tell you they are.
well, yes.
Yeah, they are. But they have a vast majority of students at Sherman that still they get the philosophy classes, they get everything, and then they walk outside and they're poo-pooing it
Yes.
because their field doctor, wasn't, didn't teach them.
Well,
Whatever.
yeah, I told you I had the Sherman grad. She came in our office and I asked her about it. She didn't know any philosophy. She was
Yeah.
sort of aware of
Yeah.
it, and but you know, she was definitely not trying to turn the power on. That's
Yeah,
all.
the three of us are gonna get the Sherman either this quarter or next quarter. I know we'll get that done, even if we have to pay for a room and show up, right? How
Sure.
many times did guys do that for us, Brad, at Life?
Oh yeah, all the
You
time.
know, it happened every quarter. Some field doc would show up, he'd rent a room, and sometimes 30 students would show up.
Right.
We're gonna get that done. And I have some acquaintances still in the administration and teaching there, and they're all for it. They're happy to have that happen. Their hands are tied with getting that to happen, from inside the school, but they're happy for us to show up and do that. So that will happen.
Yeah,
Well, you know
I think part of the issue is the requirements that CCE puts upon the
Yeah, yeah,
chiropractic schools to teach more of a medical education.
right.
You saw that shifting. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Life had their problems.
Problems
Again,
again.
because Sid basically thumbed his nose at CCE and they came down on him
Yeah.
wanted to shut the school down because of that.
They're
So
having problems again, right? But
yep.
it's a different problem. Well, it's a problem with CCE, but it's a different problem. But you want to talk about a huge lie, right? The huge lie is to take part four, you got to fly to Colorado.
Yep.
say what?
Yeah,
I missed that.
Yep.
yeah. I don't know if it's happened, but they're trying to make it happen. It won't be offered anywhere but at the CCE facility in Colorado, part four.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk about professional birth control.
Yeah, well, that might be their downfall. At least I hope it is that they try to get that through. But yeah,
Well, I think it's through, Mike. I think
is
it got
it?
through.
I
Uh,
couldn't tell from the article that I guess you sent, but
yeah. I
yeah, I can't imagine that. Well, it's illegal on so many fronts, right? It's not a state law. It can't be. It's not a federal law. I don't know how they can do that except for that the students or somebody's going to have to get together and fight it and pay for it, right? Otherwise, it'll continue to happen.
Well, the other thing, Brad, was that as of right now, Life is going to require that you have to pass part four to get your diploma.
To get your diploma, to actually graduate, you have to pass part four.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
We're
that
not
wasn't
even
that
going to
what that's what
practice.
exit proficiency was all about when we were in school. They
Yeah.
call them OSCEs now. That's what Sam had to go through. He had to prove that he could do that so he could take part four. So maybe they're cutting back on their education at the schools to rely on
Well,
CC.
yeah, I don't. Well, that again, here's another issue, right? If you're a principal school and you're teaching chiropractic, then the CCE, the national board, their questions aren't reflecting what you're learning at school. So therefore, life's 80% pass rate isn't being met or Sherman's. But there's got to be a way to take these kids in some class that says, all right, we're prepping you for the board, right? I mean,
Right.
so it sounds like
Which is
Baldwin
really
Town
what
Partnership
chiropractic
Schools.
school is all about anyway.
Was that? Yeah.
That's really what chiropractic school is all about anyways, prepping them so they can take the boards.
Well, there's the lie, right?
That's a
Yes.
lot.
Yes.
There's the lie. Hey, you want to hear
Well,
another lie that's going to piss some people off, as far as I'm concerned?
What's that?
I'm going to piss some people off when I say this, but let me preface by saying and I've said this in the past. I love research. I love seeing. I love anything that proves the existence that subluxation interferes with the body's ability to heal and maintain or adapt. Right. So I love any research that does that. But I think one of the biggest lies that we're told is that we need more research and be more scientific to be successful.
right,
Our our profession was successful. Look, we stayed successful in spite of lack of research. I mean, we beat the medical profession, right? And to tell these kids coming out of school that unless we get more and better research, they're not going to be successful is a load of shit.
right.
It is.
It
I
really
hate to say
is.
it, and I'll say it. I love the research that proves us, and I'll gladly write a check. But we've gotten bigger and better, and stronger without it. Do we need it? I would like to see it, but I think it's a lie to say that, we need it because we have uh, the the qualitative research to prove that we're successful. Is that the right word?
Right, right.
You know? And I,
Well,
I
it's the
know I backed
results you
myself
get
in the
in the
corner and people
office.
were going to
That's
throw
that's
darts
what
at me, but huh?
that's the results you get in your office from adjusting
That's
people
what I
and
mean.
getting out
Yeah.
of the way, and
People
the
keep
word gets
coming,
around.
right. People keep coming back, right? They get well in spite of all the negative that's thrown at us for the last well, where are we now? 250 years plus? 240 years? Like, I don't know. You do the math. 1895. Doesn't.
That's that is one of the biggest lies, is that we
Yeah.
need more research because the proof is in the pudding. When you move the bone off the nerve and reconnect man the spiritual with man the physical,
Uh,
the body heals itself from the inside out. And I think that's why one of the big lies in schools is that educated mind is more important than the innate mind.
Oh, that's the biggest lie, right? We've had a couple
Correct.
big lies here. That's the biggest lie.
That's a huge line. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a huge line. Yep.
If your ego is so bad that you think you know better than Gus, then you're already lost, right?
Refresh everybody's memory what Gus is,
Gus is God, universal intelligence, and spirit. Whatever you believe in. I
whatever
don't.
you believe in.
Right.
I'll
Right.
say God, but I like to use Gus because it brings more people in.
Agree. Yeah. You got to cover all the bases, but it's still there. It's still
Yeah.
there. And that's something, right? That hidden piece that that's why I've said before that this the neuro stuff, the pain, the brain, all that, that just always that's great educated talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's always my joke always was, yeah, but what if that doesn't work? We'll turn them on the other side.
Yeah.
You know,
And I'm on the other
um,
side.
I mean, and and even, what Gonstead would say, right? If the marking said this, he would say, go with your hands, right? Which was meant go
Yeah.
with your heart, go with what your body, your
Yeah.
innate is telling you, all those sorts of things that your gut feeling, that's, so much more important. And that, again, practicing from the heart, get to the love level of practice, all these different sayings that they're just not talking about
Right.
trying to be healers, right? Trying to be a healer, um, not a technician, right?
Right.
Or not following the book, those sorts of things. And um, again, it's being driven by, I'll even say now there's consultants in neurology from the standpoint of,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
this is the way to go. And I'll say it every time when I did that neuro thing, then I understood what that something was in an educated sense of, oh, it's
Mhm.
the spark of life. And,
Yeah.
sometimes you look at it as the synapse, like, oh, what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
there's that spark of life. But they still couldn't explain everything. That's what
Yeah.
always cracked me up. It was like, oh, okay, there's still something we don't know,
Oh,
right?
imagine. And I love the guys that say, well, it's the placebo effect. I have two thoughts. One is, yeah, and so what? Are they getting healthy? Right? Are they living
Yep.
a life and playing with their grandkids and doing things that they couldn't do 2 years ago? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take it, right?
Take it. What's that worth? What's that worth?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But that's why we're here, brothers.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
And the other thought was, if it is in fact a placebo effect, is it a 240 some year placebo effect? I mean, are all of us that good as salespeople? That
right,
that's utter bullshit because guys fail in practice because they can't sell the subluxation. So
right,
that doesn't wash. So
Or they're trying to sell something that is the antithesis of removing nerve interference.
mhm.
It's treat the symptoms.
right,
You're in pain. We're going to do what we can do to get you out of pain. And then they wonder why people don't stay under chiropractic care
Right.
because people don't understand the benefit of being under regular chiropractic care because the
well,
doctor doesn't understand the benefit of
Right.
that's the big part right
Yeah.
there. That's the
Yeah.
big part.
I've had doctors closing their door because they couldn't make it and at the same time calling me a used car salesman. No, I just believed in the pots and pans, man. I believe in the principle. I believe in the power that made the body heals the body. I believe that the adjustment reunites man physical and man spiritual. Most of all, I believe that if you get somebody under care and you're adjusting them, then their body has the ability to adapt and do what it's supposed to do to fight outside forces.
Yep.
If that's selling a used car,
Sign me up.
yeah, F and A, right?
how many
Sign me up.
people have we helped through the years by changing their paradigm from
Yeah.
pain relief and to taking responsibility for their health by first of all coming in and get adjusted and
Hmm.
then changing their lifestyle enough so that they can their bodies can maximize their efforts.
Right.
So this is a Will Tickle thing. Proper nutrition, regular exercise, sufficient rest, and a sound nervous system free of interference. To me, that was all I needed to do to teach my patients how to be the healthiest they can be.
Right.
I tried to live that myself to be an example for them.
That's what walking the talk was, right?
Yeah, man.
Add positivity to that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
Yep.
possibility of being better than you are, right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
keep
Yep.
putting it out there to the
Yep.
patient, to the person, the individual. You can do this, right?
Yeah.
Your body can heal, right? You have to, because that's not happening anywhere. Everybody else, medicine tells you they give you the worst case scenario, and if you do a little better, then they take credit for it, as opposed to, let's get to work, you know, let's get to work. Your
Yeah.
body can heal, right? That's the best thing. It's
I
the
don't
best.
want I don't want guys out there to be chiropractic martyrs though. I don't want them strapping the explosives to their chest in a vest and although, would you die for the profession? Yeah, but I don't want people to like ruin their whole lives. Um, how do I want to say this? I think, and maybe I've said this before, I think I was put on this planet to serve humanity, but also have fun doing it.
Oh,
You
Right,
know, so I walk the walk, but I walk the walk with a tune in my head and a whistle and a smile, right?
right.
So
Well, I think, Mike, I mean, there were a lot of um, old timers, we use that term, that fought for the principle and died broke.
yeah, right, right,
Because, they, and you read about that sometimes, where I saw a few things over the years of, oh, I tried to serve too many people and it broke my body down or whatever. And I always think that's, um, you broke down because you weren't living the principle yourself in some
right,
ways. I mean,
right.
we are gonna wear out,
right.
uh, but if they aren't, you know, chiropractic, just like you said, Brad, nutrition, but it also includes since it's prevention, if we use that term, save some money,
Correct.
right? That's
Absolutely.
that's
Save some
that's
money.
also, not saving money is a crisis philosophy, and we're not a crisis profession. So I mean, that's where it does, like Mike, you were talking about, it should be in your whole family of you save, but saving is part of being healthy,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
but being realistic, and like I said, it's
Being balanced.
being
For sure.
balanced. And if you apply the basic thing of save 10%, or at least that amount, and you do that for 40 years, you're probably going to be okay,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, no matter who you are and that sort of thing. So all those things go hand in hand. So I agree with you. It shouldn't be that you sacrifice to the point of, like you said, be a martyr. And again, many of the quote old timers, if I'm to use that term, were, and then they look up and they have nothing because they felt like they had to sacrifice for the profession or to
Mhm.
spread the word. And there needs to be that balance or an awareness. But it's just good chiropractic to have that philosophy of, oh, I'm gonna save my health, I'm gonna save my finances, I'm gonna say, right,
Right.
right, all
Right.
all those different things. It's all connected, because otherwise, what did when Joe Borio used to go, we're becoming a Febreze society, right? Just spray something on to
Yeah. That.
cover it up, and that's what um, pills and potions and lotions are. But that's also, if you just move from crisis to crisis, even financially, right? It's not good, because then
Yeah.
you do become a martyr. We have people like that. Oh, chiropractic's not a good profession because blah blah blah, right? And that's not true. That's not
Yeah.
true.
Hey, Brad, since we were talking about lies, why don't you close us out with what you think is the biggest truth about chiropractic?
The biggest truth about chiropractic is the body has an innate ability to repair and maintain itself if you remove interference. If you can remove the interference to the expression of life, then the expression will be health. And
Amen.
if we stick with that principle, the principle lasts forever.
Yep. And that is the truth. As long as we stick with the principle, this profession will be around forever.
Correct.
If we stick with the truth and we push the truth, this profession has the possibility of taking over, right? So we just
Absolutely.
have to stick with it. That's the truth,
I
right?
agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
We just need to attract more comrades in arms.
that's right. That's why we
Lock arms, and we're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that like last call, the same thing is this call. The call to action is, come on, guys, whoever's listening to this. I know we consistently have over 80 people that watch us, 80 chiropractors. Some of them might be wives, I don't know. I know my wife watches every time. Is that's 80. If you just tell one person to watch, that's 160, and then it just
Keeps going, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's how
Yeah.
movements start.
yep. I
Spread
love
the
it.
word. Spread the word. So, all right,
All right,
guys,
All
guys.
right, gents, it's a beautiful day here on the shore.
go
I'm
get
gonna
them.
find my wife and maybe go sit in a beach chair for a while.
There you
Sounds
go.
like a plan.
Yeah.
Keep spreading the word, guys.
We'll talk
Yep.
to you in 2 weeks.
Love you
All
guys.
right.
See
Love
ya.
you guys.
Bye bye.